All right, guys, what's up? It's nice to meet you, Brett, in person.
Hey, man. It's nice to meet you in person.
It's only been like 3 years.
They met on non-person about 2 years ago, actually. The first pandemic podcast that we ever had was the first time you guys met.
That was my first time ever doing anything like that. It was really odd for me.
Yep.
I'm not going to lie.
You were back in Idaho.
Yeah.
Not in Idaho anymore, Richard.
No, thank goodness. I actually, to be honest with you, I liked Idaho.
He's cracking up over there.
I was in Coeur d'Alene, so it was like the best part of Idaho.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
So my shop was there and ended up working with Rock instead. I felt there was more opportunity there.
I've been to Twin Falls.
That was a long story. Are you going to ever tell that story?
I don't know if I ever really will.
All right.
It's an interesting story, but all right. So we got
It's weird how things go around and come around like a press in a circle.
Or an oval. That was more like mine. It was an oval. All right. So we're in Fort Worth, Texas, right?
We need a figure 8 press.
Ooh.
Where are we at with that one, Rock?
Oh, they could do that.
All right. Tell me about this M-Lab project. What is the purpose of what we're doing here in this facility? What is this?
I want to know how we came up with the name, Made.
How did we come up with the name Made?
Well, we sat in a room and we made it happen.
It was actually, coming up with the name Made was a very long deliberation. We spent weeks and weeks and weeks. We came up with a bunch of different names.
What were some of the others?
I don't even remember.
I don't remember.
Like band names? You just come up with a whole bunch of them?
I don't remember. What the only name that I do very vividly remember is that there were some people that really wanted to call it Mad Lab.
Mad Lab, that's where Made came from. Yeah.
Because it would be easier to brand. And Mad stood for modern apparel decoration laboratory. And after going through all of that process, things were changing for what we created like daily. So the way Made came together was Tom Davenport and myself had kind of been kicking around this idea of creating a laboratory for several years, a place where we could do apparel development and testing for the apparel world. Mm-hmm. Several different apparel manufacturers had approached us saying, hey, it'd be great if you guys could test fabrics for us and do these different things. And so many companies have come to us over the years saying, hey, could you do this? And in a production environment, it's just really hard to slow down and test something. And how do you price that? How do you charge for it? And if you're a screen printing shop, you're like, oh, we charge $2 a print. And you spend like 10 hours and you charge $2 for it. It's just ridiculous. So we had been throwing around this idea. Tom went to work for a company. He had a company called Motion Textile for about 20 years. He sold it. After selling it, he went to work for a company called Bella Canvas. You guys know who that is. Mm-hmm. And he is their decoration specialist to this day. He's been working with them under contract for a couple of years. And
there's a train track by us, by the way. It's the best feature of the Made Lab.
Train shots.
It's just a soundbite we added.
That's right. It's room. Let's just grab room noise real quick. With what he was doing with Bella Canvas, he started that job kind of right before the pandemic. And because of the pandemic, everybody was trying to figure out how to create virtual content. And so he was coming here a bunch to create video content. We had a team here that was creating a bunch of that content. We would set up and we would print some crazy designs, and we'd do this kind of like Food Network style, like, hey, these are the steps to make a crazy t-shirt, whether that was a lenticular design or a crackle print or a UV design or all these crazy hard
all
things.
At night, right?
Mm-hmm. And we would do it in the middle of the night because we couldn't stop production.
Sarah probably loved that.
Sarah loved that. Yeah, no, Sarah did not love that. And so we were just like, man, it would be so cool just to start this lab idea. And mind you, Tom lived in Sacramento, California.
So he was frequently coming out here just for that?
He started the Texas migration, actually, from California.
Maybe he was the start. But yeah, so he was coming out here. We came up with this idea. We started looking at buildings. We came over to this building, which was in shambles. I talked him into saying, like, hey, we could make this building work. And then we started. We both put some money in, created this project, and at that point, it was just going to be testing and research and development.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd been working with Ryan for the last 5-6 years doing
2015?
education.
2015? 2016? Yeah, 15.
I think it was 15.
Yeah.
We started doing education together. And it was kind of becoming clear that Ryanet's model was changing a little bit. Ryanet wasn't going to be doing the on-site education and like they had been doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, man, I love doing that. We got to still do it. And I called Ryan and was like, can we do the education stuff? And then it became ever more apparent that maybe Ryan should be involved in this. And I guess I should back up a little bit. Tom and I, when we were creating this, we had talked to our friend Brian, who was working for Rutland, who had been purchased by
Avient.
Poly One, which
Poly
is now
One.
Avient.
Willflex, which is Poly
And
One, which is
they were
Avient.
shutting down the plant that he worked at where he was running R&D. And so he was potentially looking for a job. And we're like, wow, you'd be really helpful in this venture that we're starting, we're thinking of starting. And so we start, he's the force that really brings together this R&D piece. And then so we really want to do education. And then it was like, well, why doesn't Ryan should be involved in this? And so what do you remember from those phone calls?
Well, I remember multiple phone calls, and the question that I get asked most often about M-Lab is like, how do you guys make money? No, and that's the thing I always thought. It's like, I want to do we're going to do this lab and this testing. It's going to that's going to be in Printed Threads. It's like, no, it's going to be a completely separate building than Printed Threads. It's like, okay, how are you guys going to make money? That's what was going through my mind.
Yeah.
And then they actually did it, and then I was like, okay, they're going to do it. And then they came to Rock and Rock US on a opportunity to put equipment in here, become a showroom. At that time, we didn't have a facility in Florida. We didn't have a showroom. We didn't have a partner with a showroom. And Tom, who I've always really respected in the industry, like Tom really doesn't touch something without it being awesome. Like we've done some conferences with him. Help sponsor like the water-based camp and ThreadX and some of the other things that he'd help brand and put together, and just Motion Textiles, like the Apple of screen printing shops. Mm-hmm. And so always really respected what he touched, and he had MHM presses. And so I just figured like, oh, Brett's going to throw me a bone and we'll have this interview, but really Tom's going to just choose MHM presses. And then Tom seemed really interested in the Rock, what we had to offer as far as an integrated system. Because if you look at manufacturing systems, we're one of the only manufacturers that does everything to like made in house. And so they chose Rock. We went to the board, we voted on it. We said, yeah, we would sponsor this. And then they ended up choosing our proposal to put the equipment in here. And that opened up a conversation on the education side. And so what does education start with?
A pencil.
E.
Yeah, so it went from when we were talking about it being, the Mad Lab, which we didn't really like. I mean, the concept was like, oh, it would be like mad scientists or whatever. And it just sounded a little bit too cartoony. We added the E to the end because we added education. And so it became modern apparel development and education.
Okay.
M-Lab.
Yeah, that's awesome. What I like about it is the color scheme here, the white and black thing. It's really super bright white, factory clean. Everything's clean and nice. You got these beautiful green machines in here, and then it's like the polar opposite of what you have directly across the street, which is black and white. You know what
That's
I mean?
right.
Was that intentional? Kind of just flipping the color scheme?
Kind of. I mean, that building, when we took over that building, it was painted black, and it was one of those like, this is our building. And I remember my wife and I walked in that building the first time, and it was disgusting. But it was like, this is a big black building, and we have to have it, Yeah. And so we put a lot of work into cleaning it up and everything. But you know, you think of a laboratory, it needs to be a really bright, clean environment.
Mm-hmm.
And so this building was actually already painted white on the outside, and it just really made sense to just whitewash it, you know, paint the, by the way, painting the ceiling of a building is really expensive, like almost maybe more than painting the walls. But we needed to make it bright white. We needed to make it really look clean and open it up. So that was really important to us.
Well, something you said today that was actually pretty awesome was you mentioned the lighting having to be really bright so you can make sure your Pantone colors are right, make sure that, you know, you can actually see the ink for what it is.
Yeah. I
don't think a lot of shops have that. A lot of shops you step into are kind of gloomy and, you know, they have fluorescent light in there.
Specifically, what kind of light, Brett?
It needs to be 5 kW. So that's like the optimal light. And if you have a Pantone book,
hey,
it's over.
Zach,
I just saw
you
one.
want to go grab the Pantone book?
It's right there.
There's one right here, actually. I'll grab it.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet you Zach can run faster.
Let's see who's quicker.
I actually literally found this out. See if you know this.
What's that?
You apparently don't.
So in the back of a Pantone book, there's this. It's called the lighting indicator here, and I already got one. We have Pantone books.
That's awesome.
We have Pantone books
Exact.
everywhere.
We're sponsored by Pantone.
But so there's a lighting indicator here. So you hold it up, and what you want to do is not be able to really tell the difference between these, what are actually two swatches here, and so.
Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
I just learned that in the last 101 class.
Yeah. So if you have perfect lighting, you won't be able to tell the difference. If you have really bad lighting, you'll be able to tell the difference. And it's always important to have like a Pantone booth and everything too, just so that you make sure you're seeing true color. But that way.
Look at like the phone lighting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That way, when you're looking at a color, you're not seeing color shift. You're seeing the actual true color.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we were very specific with our electricians about which lights we needed in here. Actually, we bought these lights from a client of Printed Threads, old pro baseball player named Rusty Greer.
No way.
Yeah, so pretty rad.
Brett's got really good stories about that guy.
Yeah, so it was kind of like a really cool thing to do business with him. But yeah.
So tell me about your guys' relationship. You got like this Robin Big type of relationship. Where you guys,
What?
You guys are just like two goofballs all the
Robin
time.
Big?
Yeah, it's just like it's an interesting
I don't even
relationship
know who
for
that
sure.
is. You know who that is?
Rob Deere.
That was a great
Big
TV
Black.
show. He passed the
What
Big
TV
passed
show?
away, right?
Yeah,
What
yeah,
TV
yeah.
show?
He's from Texas.
Robin Big. It was a great
Rob
TV
Deere
show.
Dick.
Check it out.
And what era
just
was
like
that
a-
on? I
like
grew
an
up very
odd couple kind of like friendship you guys have.
conservatively.
We-
Didn't watch TV growing up. So.
Yeah. Well, so I'd known Ryan. We'd known each other for years. In fact, about 2010 was when Printed Threads started, and we bought a manual press, and it was in my family's garage, and we decided to get a building, and we were going to get an automatic press because we were getting busier, and I went and approached our local distributor about buying an automatic press, and one of my buddies had told me to go to a trade show, and he's like, "Oh, you got to meet this guy, Nick Wood." And so I went to a trade
Nick
show,
Wood.
and I
Shout
met
out Nick Wood.
Yeah, that's right. Nick Wood's name pops up everywhere.
Yeah.
But I went and met
Really,
Nick Wood, and we hung out and talked and kind of hit it off, and so, the local distributor and Ryan sold the same press, and so
It was blue.
I wanted to
Yeah. Sorry.
give Nick Wood the shot, and it just ended up in this like crazy like lowballing.
Brett really was. He was trying to get the best deal, and he was pitting two people. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah. I don't know. It was an interesting deal. I think we ultimately decided to go with the local distributor because they were local. But that kind of started the relationship with Ryan, and we knew who each other were. And then I think over the years at subsequent trade shows, we'd at least talk, and we have some similar backgrounds. I don't know. What's
We both grew up playing classical music.
Yeah, we did.
And I played the French horn. And you played...
I actually played the trombone.
Yep.
That's
So
right.
we were both in orchestra.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know your first experiences of.
I remember you at the trade show, and I remember losing that deal. And people get so mad, even like now, like people get so mad about losing deals, losing sales.
Yeah.
It's like, it's such a long lifespan of a relationship. You should never get mad about losing a client or losing a sale, because you never know what's going to, come up. There's always the next opportunity.
Yeah.
And so we just I remember talking about music, specifically Owl City. I remember talking about Owl City and Reliant K, because Brett met Katy Perry one time because she dated the guy from Reliant K.
That's right.
And toured with them. And Brett was in a much more successful classical music orchestra than I was in, and tour buses and things of that nature. And so we talked about music, and then, but he bought like one thing from us, the green stuff, the green stuff degreaser. That's all he would buy, and he'd buy a lot of it.
I just bought some.
Yeah.
The green stuff, we don't even sell it.
It's
It's different. It's
yeah.
S green now.
It changed a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he would buy that, and then we started teaching class. We taught classes forever because it's really hard to teach people how to screen print over a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
Easier on a video, easiest on a class. So we taught classes, and we expanded those classes. Then Brett approached, Nick Wood again called me. He's like, hey, I think Brett wants to teach classes for Ryan. I was like, he buys one thing from us. Like, what is this going to be, a GSG class? Like,
Yeah.
and so, and he's like, no, I think, and so he came up and he talked to our education director at the time, came up. I had just gotten back from a very long trip. Can't remember where it was from, but I was gone for like a week, flew back on a Saturday afternoon. Brett was in town, and I was like, I got to meet this guy for like a drink. We went and had a beer with Seth was there.
Yeah.
And I'm super glad I did, because I almost didn't do it because I had just gotten back from a trip.
Yeah.
And we just kind of talked about his passion for education, and then
That was the first time you annoyed Amanda by hanging out with me.
Yes. I can't remember the next time. I came down to Texas with Jeff and Paul, and we went to dinner.
Yeah.
And we hung out that night, saw your skate shop. I think you gave me a coat because I didn't bring a coat. It was 30 degrees in Texas.
Oh my gosh.
And then we hung out at the Long Beach trade show after that, and so we just started hanging out more and more.
There was a specific event where.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
This is a story.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so I'm at a trade show. Okay, this is the trade show where we actually hung out for the first time, like really, and what's Ryanet's like slogan, like our tagline?
Power the print.
Powering the print.
Powering the print.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm at a trade show, and there's another booth called Power the Press at the trade show, or Powering the Press at the trade show.
Really?
And they're putting on a conference, and I'm like, assholes. You saw that too at that show.
Yeah.
And guess who was running that booth? Random, just guess.
Nick Wood.
Nope.
This guy.
Nope.
No.
I don't know. Ross.
It was Ross.
Really?
And I was like, first of all, I saw him because Ross actually helped start our education program. And he was the first person to approach me. He's like, I want to teach classes in California. So his company, Reviation, we taught classes. Nick, who's filming right now, remembers that. We shot a lot of videos with him and his partner, David. And then we kind of split ways. And he was helping other people teach classes. So he's kind of a competitor of us. And then he has this thing that's kind of basically stole our tagline, and then that comes to the thing, like, well, you could, I think it was the first realization in life of like, we could either continue to fight everyone or we could see about working together.
Yeah.
And so I just said, hey, what are you doing? Sounds like a cool event. He was going to rent the Long Beach Convention Center, putting a lot of money to it. We'll help sponsor it. And so then we decided to, I asked if me and Brett could speak as part of the sponsorship. And that was kind of the first class that we taught together.
Yeah. So there was a series, but I can't remember what became. So it's about 2014, somewhere around there. Print Threads grew really fast. We were like, I mean, it was like we doubled in size every year, and suddenly we're a multi-million-dollar business, and it's like, oh, like all I do is work and burn out. And I joked with my wife a bunch of times about like, let's just get an RV and drive around the world or drive around the country. You know?
I skipped a year. This is the year back.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so we bought an RV and we literally like decided to drive around the country. Yeah. And we were driving up the West Coast and
in the summer. And
Ryan, I think just because Ryan's like nice to everyone, even people he shouldn't be nice to probably, is like, yeah, you can just park it in my backyard.
Well, I asked him first if he had a place to stay in the Pacific Northwest, which is the most beautiful area in the world in the summer. And everyone goes camping.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I'll just figure it out. I'm like, you're not going to figure it out. Like, I'm thinking that. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, this is my wife's reaction when I ever tell her something like, hey, we're going to start this business in Texas. She's like, you know, it's like, and so I'm like, yeah, okay. Yeah, sure. You'll figure it out. I'm like, well, if you need a place to stay, you can stay at our house, you know? And so a couple weeks later. Yeah.
So my wife has never met his family. He's never met our family. And so we pull up with a 42-foot fifth wheel, right? This thing's a monster. And Ryan has this driveway that's like an S that goes around his house in a very tight curve.
Same house?
Different
house, yeah.
Okay.
And we're like, all right, let's back this thing in. And it was like, after a couple hours, we're like, this isn't going to work, you know? And my wife comes out and she's like, no. My wife, you know.
Sarah's awesome. She can she's a great all things player.
Yeah,
she
totally.
Can see like foosball, don't ever play her.
Yeah. Don't play her at foosball, but don't expect to win. So she like starts drawing. Remember, she was like drawing in the sand. She's like, you need to come here, and right when you get here, turn this way, you know. And we figured it out. We got the fifth wheel back there. I think that night we went to get pizza, and we parked our RV in the backyard of their house for several weeks, and we ended up hanging out and just having a good time. And then yeah. So fast forward to like that next year, suddenly Ryan and I are like teaching classes at like every NBM trade show and all these things. And so we're like hanging out all the time. And then we teach at that thing. So we rent a house for our families. And
we skipped the All-Made story again.
Is the All-Made in here?
Yes.
Okay.
This timeline. I think COVID messed everyone's. Did COVID mess your timeline up?
No.
Your last year's timeline didn't get messed up at all?
Yeah, it got fucked, but it put me in a different position for sure.
It's really, I think it messed my timeline up. I used to be really good with timelines, and now. So because you flew back to Texas, because Brett, you basically left your business for like a year and a half.
Yeah.
And it wasn't doing great, you know? And so
when you were gone, it kind of took a hit?
Well, here's the thing about Brett. He's actually in his older age, he's gotten to be, you know, he used to have 4 seasons of Brett, which is like super hot summer, spring, fall, and then winter. It's super hot summer, you might get burned. Spring, fall, good times of the year. You know, winter, horrible. Like, it's like bad. It's like when it snows here in Texas. You don't want to be around it. It doesn't want to come outside. It doesn't want to play. And so, like, I walk outside one morning and I'm like, hey, Brett, what's up? You want to have a drink? You want to have it like shot? It's like a Saturday. He's like, I don't know, man. I just got to go fly back to Texas and fix a bunch of shit. And he was so bummed out. And so he had to leave and fly back to basically, I think that's when you hired Ryan, right? And hired a general manager and, of Printed Threads to run things so that you could do other things that you like to do. And put this whole thing back together, which it's been awesome. Because at that point in time, I think you guys have 3x since then.
We have. Yeah, we went from a little over 2 million to over 6 million.
Yeah. And so it's awesome to see that transition. But after that, you came back for 1 week, and that was a totally different week because we knew each other then, had a ton of fun.
Yeah.
And then the week after that, we went to Haiti for the first time, which was when we kind of concepted the All-Made idea. And then Brett was the first or second person I told about that. And he said, yeah, I'll go to Haiti and check this out. So that was all around that time too.
Yeah, we just went from, I think maybe something that happened was I was teaching some classes for Ryan and then they were doing a trade show here, and Ryan or someone in marketing, maybe Roger or someone, was like, hey, why don't you and Ryan teach a class together at the trade show that's happening in Fort Worth? And so we did. And then like afterwards, the marketing person was like, that went really well. Why don't you just keep doing that? And suddenly it was like, okay, we're doing this, and because of that, we just, we're hanging out all the time. And when you're with someone a lot and we're in the same phase of life, and we both have multiple children and we have a lot of similarities, suddenly you're just becoming closer friends. And it's like, yeah.
Well, how and why has education been such like a anchor in both your careers? I mean, you could just be printing shirts and making millions of dollars and just doing that and focused on that, but you spend a lot of your time trying to educate other people, and so does he.
Richard, you ask really good questions.
But why do you guys give so much of that?
I think that's kind of...
Why don't we answer for each other?
Why does Ryan educate people? Ryan founded a whole business based on educating people so that they would buy equipment and get better, and they buy more equipment and buy more. You know what I mean?
Maybe he added value to the market.
I don't know. But Ryan's also Ryan's so genuine that people think he's fake.
Yeah.
You know that?
Yeah, I could see that, but I know Ryan and I know that he's not. So.
And so you could meet Ryan and he could make a bunch of videos and he could teach you how to do something, and you could be like, what are you trying to get from me?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, he's really not trying to get anything from you. He's just a nice guy.
Well, I think that those videos, I mean, they definitely help scale a business, and you still see residuals from that. You're still seeing people that are coming into screen printing now that are watching Ryanette videos, his videos from early on, trying to learn those basic skills. And then it's still paying, I'm sure you still make a lot of money doing that stuff from those videos back then.
There's two things that Brett does really good. And one is that first of all, education. He went to school to be an educator. He actually has a college degree in teaching, which is more than I have. And so that he's actually a professionally trained teacher. And then two, from that perspective, is that I love this industry because this industry, first of all, it was just business for me. So it was like we taught classes so that people would stop calling us on the phone. Like it's so literally it's so hard to teach somebody how to screen print.
I get it.
And so like we had to teach classes, and so we that's the reason we started. And then Nick, who's behind that camera over there, I invested in a movie because Ryan killed it and we had extra money. And so my best friend at the time, Ryan, I was also named Ryan, and I invested in this movie. And then after the movie, when like Nick came, was like, I really don't want to. This movie thing's like making videos is awesome. I really don't want to go back to work at Best Buy. So could you like maybe we create a marketing department with video and put stuff on YouTube? It's just when YouTube popped up, and then we were like, phew. And so it was awesome, good timing, lucky. But this industry, I realized, because I think about 2008, 2009, somebody offered to buy around it for millions of dollars, and it was definitely enough to retire on, but not like a nest egg. But it was like, wait, I could sell this now, or I could. And I looked at our customer base, and all you all have started and grown screen printing businesses, and that is so cool. Like to teach and then help people grow and expand. But not only that, when I got in this industry, I was telling Brian, who was here earlier, it sucked. Like so negative, so like
The initial response?
cutthroat.
Or
I showed up at a trade show thinking it was going to be Warped Tour, and it was not. There was a bunch of guys in polo shirts. So horrible. It was and I didn't like the industry. But then looking at all these guys that were in bands and places that like had done very similar stories and made screen printing cool and like brought it back to the US. And long story short, where I was going around with that is that Printed Threads does an amazing job with using the t-shirt. I think every screen printing business needs to use the t-shirt. Everyone freaking wears a t-shirt, and people think screen printing is cool. I was literally at the airport last night typing on my computer. These two guys like, yeah, this Bella canvas versus next level. I was like, oh, have you guys ever heard of All Made? And it's like, it's crazy. Everyone wears t-shirts. They weren't any screen printers. They were talking about getting shirts from a screen printer. And so you can leverage that to do really cool shit in life. Like, Brett's going to Willie Nelson's house tomorrow.
I know.
Who gets to do that?
Right.
That's so cool.
There is this...
Zach, you can all leverage t-shirts to do really awesome stuff. And it's a t-shirt.
It is. I think that your like need or your want to try to turn it into like the band world type thing. I think you disrupted an entire industry by introducing that kind of lifestyle, you know, to the screen printing world, and it actually made it really cool. And you've got guys like him. That fucking place over there is sick, man. Like, I love like the vibe there. Like, just a little vector art all over the place. Like, it's really fucking awesome, man. Like, I think what you've got built is really cool, man. And it just adds to that. Like, and then when you guys show up to these events, it's like almost like the rock stars of that industry, you know, of the screen printing world. And it's really cool. Like, instead of just a bunch of dudes in polos, you're seeing a whole different culture, you know, arise from the stuff that you guys have been doing. So it's really cool, man.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, I think it's have fun with, you know, if you're having fun with what you're doing, whether it's going back to Ryan's story about someone offering to buy his business, like we've been approached with that, and it's like, man, what would I do? You know, because like at some point it becomes less about making the money and more about just about like the culture of your life and just like getting to be involved in things and doing things and like.
Well, when did that
fun.
When did that happen in your mind as far as like, okay, because I know when you started it was like, I need to make money, I need to feed my family and grow something, I want to buy some stuff.
Yeah. And
then at some point something happened to where you were like, you realized like you actually like contributing to the culture more so than just making monetary gains.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that also is cool too, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think at some point like both things can happen, but it does take some time. You have to be cool with being broke. You know what I mean? Like, because like you could make a lot of money overnight and be broke again the next day, you know? And so I think there was some point in time where we were really struggling. There were some years where we were extremely profitable, and Ryan can attest to this too. I bet it's like we were extremely profitable, and then we just lost a crazy amount of money. And it's like,
what do you think contributed to that?
Well, I went on a road trip for a year and a half, but
so basically you not being the one controlling the business, you know, trying to do it from afar.
Yeah.
People weren't as motivated and weren't doing things to your level of the way.
Well, I mean, it's like only one person really knows like why we're moving this fast or why we're doing it this way. You know, I was in control of all of that, but I wasn't there. Or people would be like, we need more people because we're busy, and we'd hire more people. But we didn't really need more people, you know. It was just putting Band-Aids on problems or whatever. So I think.
But you do. I think what you said there is really, it's a key success factor in business. Is I think business owners, you know, or anyone successful, they have to be not afraid. You know, quarterback when he goes to throw a ball, or a wide receiver when he goes to catch a ball, they have to be not afraid. If they're looking behind their shoulder, they're not going to make the catch, you know? And so that is, money is a resource, and a resource can grow, or now there's different ways to manage that resource, but you do have to be a little comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I think that one of my favorite quotes is from Steve Jobs, the Whole Earth catalog. It's stay hungry, stay foolish. And the reason why it's like, why stay foolish? Well, stay foolish is if you're a little bit foolish, it'll keep you hungry, you know? And my grandpa just passed a week or two ago, and I was talking about both my grandpas passed this year. Very honorable people, and they were all talked to me about their best times in life, and it was all they mentioned the hardest times. Times where they had the least money, where they put the most on the line. One went to Nicaragua, literally built a hospital from the ground in Nicaragua. The other one, basically left a farm and became a pastor in North Dakota. And so it's like hardest times. And so Sean, who was our first team member, ran it, like responded to me with a quote that just was like, hard times make strong men, strong men make good times make weak men. It
just starts the cycle over.
It just starts the cycle.
Yep.
Weak men make hard times.
Yeah.
Hard times.
Yep.
So if you just orchestrate those hard times a little bit, sometimes they can work to your benefit.
Well, I think that's kind of what we're seeing now.
But you have to do it in a way where you don't kill yourself.
Yeah, I think that we're seeing that now is hard times. You know what I mean? And you're going to see those strong men come out of those hard times. You know what I mean? You're going to see the innovators. You're going to see the people who didn't give up and fall back and quit. You're going to see that right now. This is the time where you're going to see those players actually like rise, and it's pretty cool. I actually appreciate that everyone is having such a hard time, because you're not living in that comfort of, okay, I have all these resources that I've created that I'm already comfortable with that just feed me all the time. Well, now there's issues here, there's issues here, there's issues here. Now you have to become more resourceful and find new ways of doing things instead of just how they've been for so long. And I think that that's actually pretty dope, to be honest with you. But I guess I was getting sidetracked with that. But what is the overall mission of M-Lab? What is the 5-year plan? What is the plan with this?
It's to do research and development, to make better products for our industry, and to educate people to be the best printers they can be.
Yeah. So this is your second class you guys are hosting tomorrow?
This is like our 4th or 5th class.
Yeah.
Yeah. We taught, the first one we taught was a 101 class, like our basic screen printing 101 class. And we very quickly realized, like, we don't talk to this audience. Brett and I have been in this industry for a long time. Don't talk to this audience the same way. So we partnered with an awesome girl named Jennifer. Pigskins and Pigtails is her brand. And she teaches people how to screen print with vinyl, like millions of views on Instagram and TikTok. And so we did a class called Printmakers with her, and that was awesome. It was so fun to just see that.
I see you guys they're themed kind of classes.
Yeah, we're gonna work with
Made to Hustle is coming up soon.
Yeah, we need to work with partners and this is the freeing part of what we're doing here, because when we were teaching classes or making a video with Ryan, it was always to do something. It was always to sell that product. Yeah. Or to help people successfully use a product that we sell.
Yeah.
And if it's not a product that we sell, then, and we always did it in one take, and it always worked. We never cut the video at the end of it to make it work on the video. Not true. Actually being in business with Brian, who's an literally ink and press wizard, and then Brett and Tom is and then the fact that we're not affiliated with one distributor or one manufacturer. We're working with, we do have kind of our alliances, but it's freeing to be able to say, hey, we want to just teach versus teach to sell, And
it's not just your product that you're pushing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. So what is the overall goal of this specific class that you're hosting tomorrow and Friday? Is it just to train on the rock equipment? Is that just a rock-related class?
Yeah, it's called Made to Rock. I don't think you have to have a rock press to really get a lot out of it, but the reality is teaching people the efficiencies of automated equipment. Mm-hmm. So
Rock has a promise. Rock's promise is that we are the most efficient, lowest cost of ownership, whatever you call it, press. And the only way that promise works, the only way that race car works is if you teach the person how to drive it.
Yeah.
And so I think that even Brett had Danny come in and help you calibrate your, CTS to registration system. And since then, our techs have gotten way better at doing that during the setup system, but we didn't know how to do that before. Mm-hmm. And so people I bought this thing and it's not registering, And Buck, You didn't always know how to do that. and so, like we all need people to help us, optimize. Like even the best athletes in the world have coaches and stuff.
Yep.
So I think that's the thing is like help that equipment do what it's supposed to do, and if we can help someone in any stage that they're at, even if they're not on a rock yet, help their equipment do what it's supposed to do better, then that tool is more valuable to them.
And what about expanding this project?
Yeah, so we have, Rock's got a facility in Orlando that
Somebody works at it.
Yeah, I know about that.
this guy over here works at, and so we're looking at helping you guys get some stuff set up over there so that we can have Orlando classes going on too, and we'll just keep seeing how it goes and how we can scale it.
I think one of the things that you guys talked about on the shirt show was certifications, and training printers.
I think that would be awesome if there was something that you can earn understanding a certain level or a certain degree of utilizing the machinery.
Well, also if we could like certify printers and then certify shops, what would that do, to people looking for jobs, wage scales. Like if you're like, well, I'm a really good printer, if you go through the certification course and you're like, oh man, this guy is literally like, it's like the combine in the NFL.
That would actually be really interesting.
This guy is a rock star printer.
Right.
He is, he's worth top dollar. And then all of a sudden, this guy realizes that, I thought I was the big stuff. And like, I really scored low in the combine. I need to hustle up and work harder on these certain skills. And so I think that would be really awesome to develop. This industry, we focus a lot, and you on owners, on people who own shops, or at the bigger shops, the production manager. The printer is very brushed to the side, you know.
That's actually who I talk to the most, believe it or not, is when I'm in the shops. You know what I mean? As far as like someone looking for information to scale their business or something like that, I'm going to talk to somebody who actually does that. If I want to talk to a printer about printer related things, I always do that. I go in there, and what's crazy is I don't go in there acting like I know everything. I go in there like really open-minded to like, what can you show me? What can I learn while I'm here? Even though I'm here to install your shit, what can I learn from you? You know what I mean? I really like that too.
I've seen it change a little bit. You see some more printers on podcasts these days, not just talking to the owners of the shop. And so, but I think about it, like your race car team, the race car driver doesn't own the team. He doesn't, he's not the production manager, he's the printer, so, or she. And so that's that's a huge opportunity to elevate and create value. The whole goal of All Made and even Round It was to create value in this industry. Turn it from this shirt that you're wearing right here, this shirt you're wearing is not pennies and dollars, it's tens of dollars, And if we do that through the entire workflow of people, then everyone gets more value out of it.
Well, there's a lot of work to be done to improve the industry, and I think that we can be a big part of that.
Well, you guys are definitely spearheading something for sure. Something unique, something new, something fresh, and you can see a lot of people care about it as much as you do. I mean, I watch you guys. I was paying attention to you guys. You guys really care about what you're doing here, and it's really cool to see. And I think the industry needs this, especially in a time like this right now. I think we need to see new screen printers. We need to see people that learn how to print at a higher level. I think that some of the prints I've seen in the days lately have been subpar. And the end user deserves the best quality. And so if you guys are actually helping with that as well, you're helping other people help other people, which is pretty cool.
Sweet.
So,
well, thanks for talking about it. Thanks for coming down, helping with the class.
I love it, man.
Excited to see Team Tilley versus Team Buck tomorrow in the registration contest.
Yeah, he already
Who
gave
gets
up.
the rock hats?
He already defeated. I looked him in his eyes.
Thank you, Brett, for bringing me on another adventure.
Hey, it was nice meeting you, dude. Face to face.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Ryan.
All right.
Let's go. Sign out.